Hollywood's obsession with Frankenstein is far from dead, but The Bride might be the most electrifying resurrection yet. Written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, the upcoming sci-fi horror film reimagines Mary Shelley's immortal tale through a fevered dream of neon chaos, feminist fury, and emotional reckoning. Starring Christian Bale as the monster and Jessie Buckley as the bride, this Warner Brothers production already looks like one of the most daring creature features in years. Early reactions have hailed The Bride as both visionary and volatile, a film that merges classical horror with modern rebellion. It's set to hit theaters in early 2026, arriving shortly after Guillermo del Toro's own Frankenstein, but from all early footage and behind-the-scenes glimpses, Gyllenhaal's version may be the one to truly shock the genre back to life. A retro nightmare with a modern pulse. Set in a fractured version of 1930s Chicago, The Bride centers on Frankenstein's monster, a lonely, guilt-ridden being who persuades his creator, Dr. Euphronius, played by Annette Bening, to resurrect a murdered woman to be his companion. Once reborn, the bride, Buckley, becomes more than his equal. She becomes a revolutionary force, rejecting both her creator and her would-be master in a rebellion that threatens to tear apart the world that made her. Gyllenhaal's vision turns the familiar myth on its head. Here, the bride is no voiceless creation, but a fully realized symbol of resistance, a woman fighting to define her own existence. Bale's monster, meanwhile, represents the crumbling architecture of control, patriarchy, and obsession. It's a battle between creation and creator, between liberation and possession. The film's atmosphere, lensed by Lawrence Sher, Joker, drips with punk energy. Neon-soaked streets, industrial decay, and retrofuturist set pieces collide to form a world that feels both vintage and futuristic. Gyllenhaal's production design recalls Blade Runner and the Rocky Horror Picture Show as much as it does Universal's classic monster films. A cast built for chaos. Alongside Bale and Buckley, the film features an all-star ensemble including Peter Sarsgaard, Penelope Cruz, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Annette Bening. It's a lineup brimming with emotional volatility and raw power, perfect for a story that dances between horror, romance, and political allegory. For Christian Bale, The Bride marks a dramatic return to genre storytelling after years of historical and dramatic roles. Known for his intensity and transformation, Bale reportedly dove deep into the monster's fractured psychology rather than relying on heavy prosthetics. Jessie Buckley, following acclaimed turns in Men and I'm Thinking of Ending Things, brings a fierce humanity to the bride, a creature of empathy and rebellion in equal measure. Rebellion, reanimation, and radical feminism. What truly sets The Bride apart is its thematic ambition. While Shelley's original story warned against scientific hubris, Gyllenhaal's retelling confronts the erasure and objectification of women. The bride is no longer a passive experiment. She's the story's soul, rewriting her fate in defiance of the men who sought to define her. In interviews, Gyllenhaal has noted that the original Bride of Frankenstein gave its titular character just minutes of screen time and not a single line of dialogue. Her version, by contrast, centers the bride as a voice of rage, desire, and awakening, reclaiming the myth through a feminist lens. A Frankenstein for the 21st century. The Bride has already drawn comparisons to Joker. Fully due, not just because of its shared cinematographer, but its shared ambition. Both films reimagine iconic archetypes as expressions of rebellion and madness. But where Joker 2 used musical surrealism to explore obsession, The Bride infuses punk horror and science fiction to confront the monstrous nature of power itself. Online reactions have been overwhelmingly positive, with early viewers calling the film Joker meets Poor Things by way of Mary Shelley. The visual aesthetic, part glam, part grotesque, has been widely praised, while the story's existential undercurrent gives it emotional weight beyond its horror trappings. The bride lives, and she's furious. If early previews are any indication, The Bride could stand as one of the defining horror films of the decade, a bold fusion of body horror, political allegory, and punk romanticism. Gyllenhaal's film doesn't just revive Frankenstein's monster, it tears the myth apart, stitching it back together with new flesh and new meaning. By giving voice to the silenced and agency to the objectified, The Bride feels like both a resurrection and a reckoning, a film that refuses to let the old monsters have the last word. With Christian Bale's tortured gravitas, Jessie Buckley's feral brilliance, and Maggie Gyllenhaal's uncompromising vision, The Bride may just be the film that proves horror can still be as subversive, intelligent, and electrifying as ever.